Winter in the 60s and 70s wasn't cozy. It was brutal. Homes were drafty, cars barely started, and heated seats meant sitting on a blanket fresh out of the dryer. Yet somehow, families made it through, with grit, creativity, and a whole lot of hot cocoa. Before snowblowers, smart thermostats, and fleece everything, surviving winter took effort and a bit of stubbornness. Today, we're going back to a time when frost covered the inside of your windows, when kids played outside until their fingers went numb, and when dads wrestled with frozen car doors every morning. Here are 12 things Americans did to survive winter in the 60s and 70s, back when cold weather built character. Before modern insulation and double-pane windows, keeping the cold out was a daily battle. Drafts crept through every crack, and you could literally feel the chill crawling across the floor. Families became inventive engineers, rolling up towels, stuffing newspapers into gaps, and wedging rags under doors, just to trap a bit of warmth. Some even taped plastic sheets over entire windows, turning their living rooms into makeshift greenhouses. It wasn't pretty, but it worked. You didn't think about aesthetics. You thought about survival. On windy nights, you could hear the paper rustle and the old house groan. But inside, those little fixes made all the difference. It was DIY insulation at its finest. Warm air was precious, and you fought to keep every bit of it inside. In the 1960s and 70s, the thermostat was sacred territory. And Dad was the guardian. You didn't touch it. If you were cold, the solution was simple. Put on another sweater. Maybe two. Kids wore flannel pajamas under jeans. Moms knitted wool socks. And everyone cocooned themselves in heavy blankets. Central heating existed, sure, but using it too freely meant a terrifying gas bill or a lecture about wasting money. Many homes hovered just above freezing in the mornings. You could see your breath while eating breakfast, but layering up became part of life. Thick sweaters, long johns, and even winter hats indoors weren't strange. They were survival gear. Warmth came from creativity, not luxury, and those who mastered layering were the true winter warriors. Winter in the 1960s and 70s turned every morning drive into a test of patience and willpower. Cars hated the cold. Batteries died. Engines refused to start. And windshields iced over from the inside. Every dad had his ritual. Scrape the glass with an old credit card. Warm the key with a lighter. Or plug in the block heater overnight if you were lucky enough to have one. Some even laid blankets over the hood to keep the engine warm. You'd start the car 30 minutes early, praying the heater would kick in before frostbite did. The sound of engines groaning to life echoed through neighborhoods like a winter symphony. If you got stuck, a neighbor with jumper cables or a push was your saving grace. In those days, getting your car to run wasn't routine. It was survival. There were no fancy thermals, no down jackets with tech fabrics. Winter back then meant one thing: wool. It itched, it smelled, it took forever to dry, but it worked. Wool socks, mittens, scarves, coats. If you didn't have wool, you were cold. Moms lined the radiators and stoves with dripping mittens and scarves, the steam filling the air with that unmistakable damp wool smell. It wasn't about comfort or fashion. It was about keeping your fingers attached. Kids trudged to school, looking like bundled marshmallows, faces red and noses running. But the wool did its job. And when it rained or snowed, everything got heavier, soaking up moisture like a sponge. Yet somehow, it still kept you warm. Uncomfortable? Definitely. Effective? Absolutely. Bedrooms in winter were like walk-in freezers. You'd crawl into bed and feel the chill bite through the sheets. To survive it, moms got creative. filling rubber hot water bottles, or even heating bricks in the oven, wrapping them in towels and tucking them at the foot of the bed. Later came the electric blanket, a modern marvel that felt like magic, though parents always warned, don't leave it on all night or it might catch fire. Still, sliding under a pre-warmed blanket felt heavenly. Some families even tossed blankets in the dryer before bed for a quick burst of heat. The warmth faded fast, but for those first few minutes, it felt like paradise. In a house where you could see your breath indoors, those small rituals were lifesavers. In many homes, the wood stove or fireplace wasn't decoration. It was survival. When temperatures dropped, everyone gathered around it like moths to a flame. Kids would stretch their hands and feet toward the fire, socks steaming and faces glowing. The smell of burning oak, pine, or birch filled the house. Smoky, earthy, comforting. Splitting logs was a daily chore. Stacking wood outside in neat piles, bringing in armfuls every few hours. Ashes needed cleaning, kindling needed drying, and keeping the fire alive through the night was an art form. If it went out, mornings were brutal. Still, there was beauty in the ritual, the hiss of the fire, the warmth spreading through the room, and the sense that as long as the fire burned, you'd make it through another cold night. When winter hit hard, nothing was safe from freezing. Not your car, not your pipes, not even your doorknobs. That's when the household hairdryer became the hero of the season. Moms would bundle up, run outside with an orange extension cord, and start blasting warm air into frozen car locks or along the length of stubborn pipes. You could see the steam rise as the ice melted just enough to free a key or get the water flowing again. It wasn't elegant, but it got the job done. If you didn't have a hairdryer, you improvised, warming the key with a lighter or pouring warm, not hot water carefully over the lock. It was hands-on, slightly dangerous, and surprisingly effective. In those winters, survival meant using whatever tools you had, even beauty products. In the dead of winter, the kitchen wasn't just for eating. It was the house's unofficial heater. Ovens stayed on for hours, filling the air with the smell of casseroles, meatloaf, and bubbling stews. A pot of chili simmered on the stove while the windows fogged up from the steam. Kids gathered near the oven door to soak in the warmth, cheeks red from playing outside. Dinner time wasn't just about food. It was about comfort. When Mom baked bread or a pot pie, the whole house felt alive again. The scent of roasting chicken or homemade soup could lift your mood instantly. Modern heating might be more efficient, but it can't match the soul-warming power of a kitchen alive with food, laughter, and love. Every winter afternoon followed the same pattern. Kids trudging home soaked from snowball fights, sledding, or shoveling driveways. Boots squished, scarves dripped, and gloves froze stiff as boards. The solution? The family heater or wood stove became a makeshift drying station. Socks, mittens, and hats were draped everywhere, over chairs, radiators, and doorknobs. The air filled with the earthy scent of wet wool and smoke. You'd hear the sizzle as melted snow hit the stove, a soundtrack of winter survival. Sometimes clothes dried stiff, but at least they were warm. Modern dryers are faster, sure, but nothing beat that cozy chaos of drying by the fire while sipping cocoa and feeling your toes come back to life. Before snowblowers became common, shoveling was a way of life. When a storm hit, the world didn't stop. You just picked up a shovel and started digging. Kids cleared sidewalks before school. Dads tackled driveways before sunrise. and everyone prayed the snowplow wouldn't bury the car again right after finishing. It was exhausting, freezing work. Your breath fogged the air, your back ached, and your hands burned inside soggy gloves. But there was pride in it too. Neighbors helped each other, trading shovels and jokes across driveways. When you finally finished, the sight of a clean, glistening path under the pale winter sun felt like victory. It wasn't easy, but back then, nothing worth doing ever was. Keeping warm in winter wasn't about high-tech insulation. It was about old-fashioned ingenuity. Families hung thick, heavy curtains over windows to block out the chill, and homemade draft stoppers. Long fabric tubes stuffed with rice, beans, or sand sat snugly against door bottoms. Every little trick mattered. Some families even hung blankets over entire doorways to keep heat in one room. It wasn't elegant, but it was smart. The difference between a freezing night and a cozy one could be as simple as a rolled-up towel or a well-timed curtain pull. It was DIY energy efficiency before the term even existed. Proof that warmth came not from gadgets, but from resourcefulness. In the 1960s and 70s, winter was everyone's problem and everyone's responsibility. When storms hit, neighbors didn't hide indoors. They helped each other. Someone always had an extra shovel, a spare blanket, or a pot of soup to share. Families gathered by the fire, playing cards, telling stories, and listening to the wind howl outside. Kids learned early that getting through winter meant teamwork, whether it was pushing a neighbor's car out of a snowbank or checking on an elderly couple down the road. The cold was relentless, but the kindness was stronger. It wasn't about surviving alone. It was about surviving together. And that sense of community, that warmth of human connection, was what truly melted the chill of those long, hard winters. What's your favorite winter memory from back then? Share it in the comments. We love hearing your stories and read every single one of them. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, make sure to like, subscribe, and join us for more nostalgic stories from the past. Stay warm out there, and we'll see you in the next one.